Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the third edition of Parakh. We will be starting with first quiz of the day, the alphabetical quiz. I am Angshu Pal from Quiz Club IIT Patna, and I will be the host for you today. So here are the rules for the quiz. This is an under 25 quiz. Total, there are 26 questions. Each question carries 1 point. There are no negative. In case of multiple parts to the question, points will be divided equally. For each question, the keyword starts with the variable letter used in the question. Like in the first question, the answer would start with A, the second question would B, C, the third question with C, and so on. And the 26th question will end with Z. A camera icon on the top right indicates that an image follows the question slide. You have to type in an answer in the G form only. Only one of your team members has to fill the form. You have to submit the G form within 90 seconds of the last question being closed. There will be no rerun. So see it once carefully. Any unfair means would lead to the immediate disqualification. So get ready for the quiz. And please do not Google. Please maintain the integrity of the quiz. So here comes the first question. The Fallen Angel is a painting created in 1847 by a French artist, Alexandre Cabanel. It is inspired from John Milton's Paradise Lost and depicts Lucifer falls from heaven after his moral descent from an angel to the devil. The painting is quite heavily referenced to both thematically and visually in the story of another simple similar person A. Who is A in this question? And a photo also is in the next slide. Here is the picture. Okay, so back to the question. The bold text serves that hint. His moral descent from an angel to the devil and focus on thematically and visually. So next question, second question. In the 1920s, a company featured a puzzle advertisement on the back of a weekend newspaper inviting customers to send in the completed puzzle to win a prize of a branded pincushion in the shape of a flour sack. Previously, the company's all-mail advertising department had dealt with customer mail and questions. Surprised by the unprecedented number of responses, the company decided to turn to B. B was made the female chief of correspondence for the company. Her first name was chosen for its wholesome, cheerful sound. She shares her first name with a younger, quintessential girl next door that has been around since 1940s. Identify B in the question. Here, quintessential means that she is the most important one, and she was a wholeful and cheerful sound for its wholeful and cheerful sound. Okay, so moving on to the third question. C is the most efficient machine mankind has made till now. Still, it has around 50,000 patents for modifications and improvements. In fact, earlier there were so many new patents for it that the patent office in London had to set up another desk solely for C related patents to cater to them. Some patents even modified them for underwater usage. Even today, we see new innovations for C. Recently, someone changed the shape of one of its components, and though it looked outlandish, it still worked. It has been claimed to one of the best inventions in the past 200 years. Identify C in this question. So, everyone would have used this machine till now, and it has been famous for its modifications and improvements, and it is one of the best inventions in the past 200 years. Okay, so moving on to the next question, the fourth question. Throughout the history of military and naval conflict, D is believed to have been more fatal to armies than powder and shot. It is stated that during American Civil War, millions of deaths were attributed to D. Soldiers from rural areas were especially susceptible to D because they had never been exposed to them as had soldiers who grew up in the crowded cities. A slang phrase became popular with the victim called as one who hasn't got the guts to stand it in the army. Identify D. So we are talking that something that kill more peoples than guns and fire. So identify such thing. Okay, so moving on to the next question. The fifth question. Pixmob is an LED consultant based in Montreal, Canada. Using state-of-the-art customizable LED solutions, Pixmob is one of the leading names in its field. Recently, they came up with an ingenious method to control their effects. Using controllers to project infrared light at the receivers all around them, they essentially paint the room and control the entire setting, thus eliminating the possible threat of position changes of the receivers midway. This is a departure from previous similar systems that were coded according to location. Where have we recently seen these improvised solutions? So it is asking that where we have seen that these solutions have been improvised recently in these few months. Okay, so moving on to the next question, the sixth question. In the realm of science fiction horror, this enigmatic creature F was born from the creative genius of a renowned filmmaker and became an iconic symbol of extraterrestrial terror. If F was initially designed with finger-like appendages resembling elegant hands with hairpin tight gripping, but they were removed from the final design as made the creature appear comical rather than terrifying. F is a misunderstood cuddler, but all it really wants is a friend. So what is this creature that we are exactly talking about? And it have finger-like appendages and known for tight gripping. Okay, so moving on to the seventh question. This particular accessory from 17th century features a very big gemstone of a certain type. Though questioning the authenticity of this accessory doesn't make much sense, some people wonder why it's fake. Here is why. First, the person who originally owned it didn't have a lot of money back then, so it's unlikely they could afford something so fancy. Secondly, due to the size of the gem and the fact that they lived in the Netherlands at that time, so it would have to be shipped there all the way from South Asia, which would be highly implausible. Lastly, in the 17th century, many fake imitations of this kind of gem made from hollow glass spheres were around. Where have you seen this particular accessory? So at that time, they were not, they could not afford something, and it had to be shipped all the way from South Asia. And at that time, the gem was also made, the fake imitations were also made from hollow glass spheres. So where have you seen this? Moving on to the eighth question. The cult of H is a popular meme community that came into existence following an incident in the mid 2010s. They believed that this event would be a source of a karmic energy that would plague humanity with strife for the next several years. H is considered by them to be the second coming of Jesus Christ, explaining that both were born among animals, both were loved by the children and were sinless, both died for sake of others, both have legacies past their death. So identify this popular meme community. Focus on the timeline, and that is it is a meme community, and it generated back then, and it's still popular now. Okay, so moving on to the ninth question. I is a type of contract binding one person to work for another person with set terms and conditions. This type of contract was often signed for apprenticeships in earlier times. The etymology of why, however, has nothing to do with the contract's terms and everything to do with the physical form of the contract. These contracts were written on a piece of paper, which was then cut into random zigzag patterns into numerous pieces for all the involved parties. This form of authentication helped preserve the integrity of the contract, as the random zigzag shapes along the cut would only be matched by the corresponding other piece in the original paper. Thus, this gave rise to the term I. Identify the term I. So focus on physical form of the contract. They were cut in random zigzag patterns and into numerous pieces for all the involved parties. Okay, so moving on to the 10th question. Dash is a reality show that originally aired in the late 80s. Envision a charismatic host, famous for his distinctive bald head, leading contestants through the weirdest facets of the game. The program was often characterized by participants adorning the most outlandish costumes. This show became a cult television hit around the world. It premiered in India in the early 2000s and rapidly ascended to prime-time eminence within the viewership. To make it relatable to the audience, the Indian dub got Jay as the commentator. One of his iconic catchphrases is "Bach ke rehna, re baba." Recently, when Amazon UK announced the return of the show with new host, they were met with requests from the audience to bring Jay back. Identify the commentator Jay. So focus that the charismatic host had a bald head, riotous facets of the games, outlandish costumes, and most famous catchphrase of the commentator, "Bach ke rehna re baba." Okay, to the 11th question. Dash is the personification of time, a symbol of eternity and inevitability. In recent centuries, Dash is often depicted as an old man wearing a robe and carrying a sickle to cut off time at the end of one's life. He also often carries a team timekeeping device. However, there exists a myth that Dash is not just any old man, but a very particular individual K. K also carries with him a similar weapon, in which most depictions, although it was used for a quite different purpose at first. After being defeated, it was K's punishment to slave away for eternity, keeping track of time and always being present at the end of one's life. Identify this person, K. So it he was not just an old man. He carried with him a similar weapon and he had a different purpose. After being defeated, he had to keep the track of time for eternity. So the 12th question. The demographic in the next slide shows the effect of L-Lady in certain parts of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, enlisting few. She is always booked for concerts in Gorakhpur and Deoria. Buxar shakes on Bindi. Chhapra's Saran is affected by her ghagra. Balia dances on her cheeks. Sasaram sways on her earrings. Identify this famous lady L. The picture follows in the next slide. So identify the L lady. So the 13th question. In one of the most bizarre claims we have seen, Dash was once sued by three men in 1997 for trespassing on M. The three men filed their complaint at the office of the country's prosecutor general. In their view, Dash has trespassed on their territory and gone about exploring without even informing them and asking for their permission. Claiming to be direct descendants of two mythical civilizations that predated Christ by millennia, the three men said that they had the required legal documents to prove that they were the rightful owners of M. Needless to say, their complaints were rejected. Identify that what M we are talking about in this question. So they accused Dash of trespassing on their territory and gone about exploring without even their permission. So tell what M we are talking about. Moving on to the next question. The one word N has traveled a long way to become an Indian mob favorite today. Disparagingly used this day, N had its original origins rooted in medieval folk drama. It was originally the name of a queen who was the protagonist of an immensely successful such folk drama. The widespread fame of this folk performance led to the entire dramatic genre of the type being named after her character, and remained the biggest form of entertainment in the villages and towns of North India till the advent of Bollywood. Identify this word N, and the origin has been explained in the question. Excuse me. So it is, excuse me, it is the biggest form of entertainment in the villages and the towns. Okay, so here comes the 15th question. KFC has always been known for its daring choices. In mid 2019, it released a limited time only dish that became an instant hit, the Cheetos sandwich. This new item on the menu was well received by most customers. An article praising the same had a very witty headline with subtle wordplay on the name of a popular 2010s television show to indicate that the Cheetos sandwich was here to stay for as long as it was produced by KFC. What was this witty headline used starting with O? So focus on the timeline and the Cheetos sandwich. So moving on to the 16th question. P. An innovative fitness system whose genesis can be traced to the challenging milieu of World War One, when a trainer found himself interned in a British camp. Here, amidst the constraints of confinement, he collaborated with fellow internists to devise physical fitness and rehabilitation exercises that required minimal equipment. This fitness system gained recognition for its unwavering emphasis on core strength, flexibility, and comprehensive body conditioning. Dancers, athletes, and celebrities alike embraced contrology, propelling it to the forefront of fitness practices. Identify this P, the fitness system, and focus on the word rehabilitation exercises. It's very important in context of P. So, 17th question. In movies, we have seen scenes involving Q for many years. Usually, these scenes involve the main character trying to escape, which adds excitement to the story. But lately, filmmakers seem to be using Q scenes less often, probably because they're aiming for a more realistic approach. The reason for this decline in Q scenes might be that they aren't as life-threatening as they are usually shown in movies. In fact, something like green silos could create a more convincing effect than Q in these situations. The presence of human lungs in the torso also plays a significant role in preventing the full realization of the mentioned effect. Consequently, it's nearly impossible for a physically healthy individual to succumb to the risk typically associated with Q in films. Identify Q. The Q scenes aren't as life-threatening, and the presence of human lungs in the torso also plays a significant role in preventing the full realization. So you have to tell me about mention the word Q. Okay, so moving on to the next question. R is a commonly seen but often derided tactic seen in football, having the reputation of being a negative approach. However, hasn't stopped many coaches from using it, especially when things get desperate. The origin for this name comes from a quizzing show in the 60s and the 70s. In this show, the objective was to score goals by answering general knowledge questions. The contestants could either opt for four easy questions, three less easier questions, two again less easier questions, or one tough question. The last choice was called R, hence giving the name to its real world manifestation on the football pitch. Identify why, which is a tactic in football. And this tactic is still used by many managers across different clubs and countries. So, and you could get the hint from the second para. Moving on to the 19th question. S is a very popular song from the late 1960s. S artist has given different explanation for the song's inspiration. Once he said that he had written it for his wife but needed a three-syllable word to fit the tune of the song. He has also said that the inspiration for the new name came from seeing a photo of the young Dash with her famous parents on the cover of a magazine. As a testament to this, he performed it at her 50th birthday celebration. S has become extremely popular in a certain field in recent years, as evidenced over the past 2 months. Identify this as the popular song that we are talking about, and it's been very much popular in the field in past 2 3 months. So think about it. Moving on to the 20th question. The T effect occurs when people devote so much time and attention to an activity that it begins to pattern their thoughts, mental images, and dreams. People who have spent a prolonged amount of time on tea can find themselves thinking about ways different things in the real should be arranged, such as the boxes on a supermarket shelf or the buildings or street. They may see such colored, moving images when they are falling asleep, a form of hypnagogic imagery. Identify this T effect, and we have already seen, and you all must have seen in previous years, and it has also application in the real world, like boxes on a supermarket shelf and arrangement of those buildings on a street likewise. Okay, so the next question. Czesław Beksinski was a Polish artist known for his enigmatic and surreal paintings. Born in Sanok, Poland, he began his artistic journey as a photographer before transitioning to painting. Beksinski art is characterized by its dark and haunting themes, often featuring faceless figures, dystopian landscapes, and nightmarish visions. His decision to refer to many of his artworks as "you" reflected his artistic philosophy. This intentional decision was a manifestation of his belief in enabling viewers to form personal and open-ended connections with his artwork. This approach allowed each person to create their own unique narrative or meaning when engaging with this art. Identify the you that the title of most of his artworks and focus on that it creates a unique narrative or meaning, and the viewers can form a personal and open-ended connections with themselves with the artwork. Known for his surreal paintings and focus on the themes. Now the 22nd question. In 1974, when North Korea was more financially strong, Swedish officials made what seemed like a great deal with the developing nation, sending it more than 70 million US dollars worth of heavy machinery and 1,000 X of Company V, but North Korea never paid for it and ignored the invoice. It is still used in the city of Pyongyang. As per the Swedish Export Credit Agency, the interest and the penalties on the amount due have grown to a staggering $322 million over the last 40 odd years, which is approximately 22,000 crore rupees. To this day, the bills remain unpaid, making it the largest dash theft in history. V is a well-known manufacturer of dash hailing from Sweden, famous for its iconic emblem featuring an ancient Roman deity after which a planet is also named. Identify V. So when North Korea was financially strong, it bought heavy machinery and thousand dash of Company V, but never really paid for it till date. And on V's emblem, there's an ancient Roman deity after a planet of solar system. It is also named. So identify V. Moving on to the next question. The phrase W is often used to emphasize the emphatic nature of victories in any field. However, this common phrase, especially in competitions, originates from a very particular sporting practice. In horse racing in the 19th century, often with the lead horse was far ahead of its nearest competitor down the home stretch. The jockey would let go of the reins to flex their ease and margin of the victory. This act was quite literally turned into the phrase why. Identify this famous phrase why, which is almost used in any field. And for hints, the second para is very important and that it is used in almost every field and you have heard it in the commentary. Moving on to the 24th question. A particular US Navy submarine incorporates a pair of advanced photonic masks housing high-resolution cameras capable of a complete 3-degree rotation, effectively replacing the traditional periscope. Initially, the control of this mast relied on a control method resembling that of a helicopter, criticized for its bulkiness and difficulty in operation. To address this challenge, the submarine team set out to find a solution that would make controlling the photonic mass easier, cost-effective, and accessible to a wide range of users. Their ingenious idea was to switch to a more familiar and intuitive control system. What did they switch to? Starting from X. So the initial control system was very bulky, so they devised a easier, cost-effective, and a system which is accessible to a wide range of users. Moving on to the 25th question. Y traces its origin to the picturesque alpine regions of Europe, primarily Switzerland and Austria. Born out of necessity in their rugged terrain, Y emerged as an ingenious method for long-distance communication. Its unique blend of high and low pitches proved remarkably effective in bridging vast mountainous distances with sound. Interestingly, YS appeared in the sequel of a highly acclaimed animated film series, where it introduces a new character akin to a sisterly figure followed by a beloved deuteragonist. This character, ensnared in a collector's clutches, shares the same predicament as our deuteragonist. Yet, She possesses a remarkable proficiency is why, a skill that lends itself to her intriguing pseudonym. Identify why. So why comes before the name of this character akin to a highly acclaimed animated film series, and why is all was used for long distance communication, and it's a unique blend of high and low pitches. So there is the last question of the quiz, the 26th question. Earlier this year, a historical memorandum of understanding (MOU) was established between India's Ministry of Education and Tanzania, heralding a new era in their diplomatic relations. This MOU, strategically crafted to elevate global education standards, has paved the way for a revolutionary project in Tanzanian education. The precursors to this visionary undertaking have already been largely successful in reshaping the educational landscape in India, evolving into an aspirational household dream. What is the name of this pioneering project location Z, where an untraditional director is poised to steer the course of change? So it's very famous for you guys, you must have heard of it, and it's an aspirational household dream elevating global education standards. What is the name of this project location? Okay, that's the final question. Now, please submit your answers in the G form because we will be closing the G forms in 90 seconds from now on. All of you, please submit your responses in the G form because we will be closing soon. Okay, the form is now. Okay, so the G form is closed now. So stay tuned for the results, this answers discussion of this quiz. And that is from my side. Thank you, and stay updated for the YouTube link on the Parakh 2K23 group. Thank you, everyone.